For your salsa verde enchiladas, you are going to need tortillas, some Monterey Jack cheese, a spicy little pepper. We have some green onions, a poblano, tomato, your warm and smoky spices, black beans, tomatillo salsa, and some sour cream. And then you are gonna need a tablespoon of butter, some salt and pepper, and some oil. For my poblano, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this in half. And poblanos aren't very spicy. They definitely have a little bit more heat to it than like a green bell pepper. This is what they use to make chili rellenos. All right, so I've just removed the seeds and the like white rib, and I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this into strips. Like so. And then I'm just gonna gather all my strips together, and I'm just gonna go ahead and dice this up. And I'm just gonna do this to the other side of my poblano as well. For my tomato, I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this top off. And a lot of times if I'm using tomato like raw in a salsa, I'll get rid of like the seeds in the middle, but since this is gonna go into our filling and it's all gonna cook down, I'm gonna go ahead and leave it. So I've just cut it in half, and then I'm gonna cut this in half again. Like so. And then you're just gonna cut this into strips. Turn your strips. And there you go. Now you have a perfect dice, and you're just gonna do this with the entire tomato. Just cut it into strips and give it a good dice. So just do this with the remaining tomato. Now we are going to just thinly slice our little tiny pepper. I believe that this is, now we are going to thinly slice our little pepper. I believe this is a serrano pepper, but it is so small, it's kind of hard to tell. So you're just gonna really thinly slice this. This is actually gonna be used as a garnish, so you wanna make sure you go as thin as possible so that, you know, if you sprinkle it on top, somebody's not getting a giant bite of chili. So as you see, I'm just taking my time to thinly slice this. I may even, because there's not much of it, I'm just gonna kind of do a little dice of it. Remember to make sure to wash your hands after you have been dealing with any sort of chili peppers. All right, so I heated up a little bit of oil in my pan, and I've added the poblanos, and we're just gonna cook this for like 3 to 4 minutes until they get softened. I have also gone and strained my black beans, but as you see, I strained it over a bowl because we want to save all of this liquid. So they are draining over a bowl. If you don't have a small strainer like this, just try and make sure you just save the liquid. Do not pour all this liquid down the sink because you are going to need it. All right, to my poblanos that have been softening, I'm gonna go ahead and add all my tomatoes. I'm gonna add my scallion white. You're gonna save the scallion tops for garnish. And then I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of my bean liquid, and you're still gonna need some more bean liquid in another step. I'm just gonna give this a good stir, and this is gonna cook for like 2 to 3 minutes until everything is nice and softened. So while that cooks, I'm actually going to go ahead and also remove half a teaspoon of my warm and smoky Southwest spice blend into a small bowl, like so. As this cooks, I'm gonna add in the remaining warm and smoky spice blend to my vegetables. Give this a good stir and let this cook for another minute or 2. I forgot a step. I also need to add half of the beans. So you're gonna save the other half of the beans for the next step. So I'm just kind of eyeballing it. And I'm just gonna give this a good stir, and then this is like done. Because these beans are already cooked, they don't need to necessarily soften. So I'm gonna go ahead and season this with salt and pepper. And there we have it. For our remaining beans, we're gonna go ahead and hit a drizzle of oil into a saucepan. We're gonna go ahead and add these. And these are gonna cook for just like 2 to 3 minutes until they get kind of softened. So just cook these until they start to get a little bit softer. All right, my beans have been softening for a couple minutes. So now I'm gonna take 3 tablespoons of this remaining bean liquid. And I'm gonna go ahead and turn that heat down to low and just let this simmer for another minute or two to just really soften up those beans. All right, now I'm gonna go ahead and add in my tablespoon of butter and just let that melt. Most of the time, refried beans are used making lard, which is basically just pork fat, rendered out pork fat. But in this case, we're going to use butter because we are going to turn these into more of a refried bean. And so now I'm just going to go ahead and turn the heat off. My butter is completely melted. I have a potato masher. If you do not have a potato masher, you can use a fork. And you are just going to mash these down until they resemble more of a refried bean. So as you're mashing, I'm going to have to keep kind of like shaking my potato masher to get the beans off of it. You may even need to use like a spoon. And so you're just going to keep mashing until these are more of a refried bean consistency. So as you can see, my beans are mostly smooth. You can see that they no longer are like individual beans. They're all mashed up. I'm going to go ahead and season this with salt and pepper. And then just give this a good kind of final stir / mash. And now we are ready to start assembling our enchiladas. So to assemble our enchiladas, you're gonna take a little spoonful of the mashed beans. And then you're gonna take a spoonful of this filling. Like so. And then you are just gonna go ahead and roll this up carefully, not to lose any of those ingredients, like so. And you're just gonna do this with the remaining tortillas. All right, I've rolled up all my enchiladas and I've placed them into this foil pan. You can use like an 8x11 glass pan or whatever baking pan you have that will fit. And so now I'm just opening up my roasted tomatillo salsa, and you just peel up the edges and then squeeze on the side. And then I am going to go ahead and give this a cut. All right, and I did place all my enchiladas seam side down. So the bottom part of the tortilla, you know, I've placed that down. So now we are going to take this roasted tomatillo salsa. Tomatillos look kind of like a green tomato, and these have just been charred in a dry pan and then blended with some lime juice, some cilantro, some onion, and other seasonings. And so we are just gonna top our enchiladas with this yummy green salsa. Like so. And if you want, you can kind of spread it around a little bit. So I'm just using this spoon just so that all the tortillas are covered. And this last tortilla doesn't have a lot, so I'm gonna just kind of scooch some down. All right, like so. And then you are gonna go ahead and just sprinkle your Monterey Jack cheese on top. If you like a lot of cheese and have more cheese at home, feel free to add some. I think I am gonna add a little bit more cheese, but that's just my preference. And then this is gonna go into the 475-degree oven for just a few minutes until everything gets like warm and bubbly. While my enchiladas are cooking, I'm gonna go ahead and make my like spiced crema. So all I'm going to do is I have my reserved Southwest spice blend and I have my sour cream, and I'm gonna go ahead and just add in my sour cream packet. And then I'm just gonna stir this really fast. All right, and then I'm just gonna add a little bit of water at a time until I get that like more drizzling consistency. A little more. That looks good to me. And there you have it. All right, so my enchiladas have come out of the oven, and now you can go ahead and plate them, serve them with some of the crema, some of the spicy chili, and then some of the green onions. And as always, I look forward to your presentation.